Around the home gardens, yes, I think we have spoken more about that. I don't have to say more, but let's educate ourselves around how we can participate in that. And then lastly, we have the MEC of Agriculture with us today, which I think is a real blessing for us. MEC means really she's the highest in our province for agriculture. There's no one beyond her in our province for agriculture. So today we have access. Let's take full advantage of that. Speaking to you specifically there, my sister. Ubuelena afterwards and ask her for opportunities for young people. I know she's passionate about young people specifically working in agriculture. So please ask her and communicate around how you can participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Tipo. I believe every child, and also as Grow Great, we believe that every ECDs, there's one who spoke just now about that we have ECD centers, but they don't have space and also tools and training. So it's good to have this kind of platform where we can share information on how to work together in making sure that when a child's life has started great, when hand over these children to it, both still. Okay, the growth still continues because we are working together to make sure that our children grow great. And with that said, may God help us all.
Okay, on a closing part, I think it's dealing with some of the things that were asked, but in general. I think the first thing to know from my side is that Baholo communities belong to us. Ne? We are the members of those communities. And it will take us, again, to stand up and make sure that we make a change. This includes the issue of nutrition in our communities. The miracle is not going to come from government, not anytime soon, because 30 years in we deal for a government operator as well. So we really need to stand up. And here's the thing, there's a brother who mentioned parents taking care of their kids, and I support that. But Haholo, if a parent doesn't have, then the parent doesn't have to give to the child. And again, the problem on its own. And if the parent has and is not taking his responsibility, I think then we must agree for our communities to be functional, we must change our lifestyle. Meaning, there's no way that you can have money and a large portion of your money goes to alcohol, or a large portion of your money, let me protect myself, goes to church rather than your own house. So there's a bit of that has to happen. That we become intentional in growing ourselves as a community. So that's number one. The second one is, on the issue of my brother said something about wholesale. I get these communities we own. So let's not be afraid to sit down and check the structures of our own communities and come with solutions that are relative to that community. Don't copy and say, for us to succeed, we must find somebody who's going to distribute our stuff, and the people who are hungry are people in your own community. Create structures of distributing your own stuff in your own communities. And for all of us.
Thanks, leaders. I think what is clear for everyone, and particularly myself, is that the gap between the constitutional rights provided for us or promised for us and our daily reality is becoming the highest project and the highest challenge in our democratic project. And we have to be honest, we can't just eat rights. And it can't be locked up in textbooks for lawyers only. It is for all of us as people to enjoy in the freedom that we so-called have. And so, to bring this rights to reality, I want to give you one example of a very successful campaign that I'm happy that the UAH, or the Union Against Hunger, is trying to learn from as well. I don't know if there are any TAC comrades here. Are there any tech comrades? Not today. So yesterday in Foslo, there's one day raised the hand. We had a community meeting as well. And the TAC, for many of you who know the HIV/AIDS crisis, right? And that crisis killed millions of people. It's still today, like somebody said, it's still killing people because of these issues related to hunger, etc. But it was ordinary people like us from communities who decided to work together, and on multiple fronts were starting to activate themselves. So my brother was right. If you see your neighbor is hungry, what little bit can you offer them to make sure that they're not hungry? But at all levels, we must be fighting. And that's why the Union Against Hunger is so important, because it will give us the opportunity to say, what do we do for ourselves? Because no one is coming to save us. We have to do the work to save ourselves and our families and the generations coming after us. And so, once again, as World Hunger Day is commemorated, we remember that hunger is not caused by food shortage, but by poor political choice. And that our communities must be unified, must be informed. Let's host those workshops. Let's invite organizations like these and others in the union to come and do budget, understanding the budget, understanding today at local government in Joburg, they were announcing the budget. We must go and ask those officials, what is in the budget to address hunger? And it shouldn't just be a food parcel. Lastly, the Constitution belongs to you, but it's our future that requires us to fight for. Sizojiki zinto. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my beautiful. No, you'll respond when you do that activity. Thank you. All right, thank you so much, guys. And just as a closing note from the things that extensively they are raising on, I just want to say this is the Union Against Hunger's second activity in a community. So, what we need to do is to go to every community, to speak to every community member, but being led by them. I was saying yesterday in this other gathering, we all know that politics, next year, 2026, local elections. Again, Tina Sinzwembu, Tina Sinjani, Balishela. As I ask, when that time comes, Harvardly United, like the t-shirts we are wearing, and say, before you give us your manifesto, you tell us your story. This is the demands of this community. If you can't deliver, start over. And the next year, it's one of those years that prove we have the power. Now it's time for us to challenge politicians to give us what we want, because we cannot suffer like this forever. So on that note, can I ask Dr. Ellen, please just respond to one or two things you want, and then introduce the MEC for us. Thank you so much for your patience, Rakulo.
So yeah, I wasn't up there because I needed my jacket getting old. And I just want to say one thing. I mean, it's been brilliant to hear everybody. I wish I understood every word that you spoke. To my shame, I didn't. But maybe I can still rectify that at one time. But in the end of the day, we've got one message here. It's up to us. And it's up to us to push the only organ that can really do something. I'm afraid that's the reality, is the government. We can do little things in our community, can make a massive difference. But at the end of the day, the fundamental power to make huge and real changes is in the government. And the government must wake up. This is the most crucial element of our society. That children are dying in a country that has an excess of food? No. This is just unacceptable. This is not a war, as Tata Baba said. And I just want to say, it might embarrass him, and I think he spoke brilliantly. And it really resonated with me, and I'm sure it resonated with everybody else. We need fundamental change in the economic system. Because until that happens, our power is limited. But to influence the government and to force them to change, our power is massive. So please, take heed of what has been said and what Tata Babi came across saying. Because these are great leaders in our country. And we must listen to them and heed them, because each individual can do a hell of a lot to influence the government. Now, I know we have, really all of us have a sort of mistrust of government, because the government has let us down. And I think the government's let people down all over the world. But I met someone a few weeks ago that the moment I met her, I felt something can happen, who's dedicated to making a change. And I really believe that she will, and I really believe that her approachability is unique, and we really look forward to working with you. So, MEC Ramakopa, I invite you to come and talk to us and to show us the light. Thank you.
Community leaders, activists, members of different organizations, representatives of different communities, Galidumedisa. And thank you, Alan, for those very heartwarming words. I almost shed a small tear there, but I thought, let me gather myself and be ready to make this address. But thank you so much for that introduction. I was given this t-shirt. Okay, it was Esther. There we go. I was given this t-shirt by Os Esther. And don't think that I don't want to wear this t-shirt. I wanted to wear this t-shirt. Mari, you know how these things can be. Sometimes have a wanamuto from a political affiliation. But maybe this is my event and I've captured this event. So I cannot capture this event, or Bari Union Against Hunger is captured by me. So I'm going to take this t-shirt with me, and I'm going to wear it in my spare time, and continue to walk this journey with you. But thank you very much for this t-shirt. I will keep it close. Leaders, today we are gathered here because, as we've all acknowledged, there is something deeply wrong in our country. Today we are gathered here because we know, because the statistics tell us, and not just because the statistics tell us, because we live this reality, that too many people in our country tonight are going to go to bed hungry. Today we are gathered here because we can no longer sit idle whilst our children suffer from malnutrition and stunting. Today we gather here to honor the life and the death of Usisibonge Gabuso, a lady, a mother from Butterworth, who in 2023 took her life and the life of her own 3 children because she was unable to feed them. Filicide. That's what they call it. When a parent kills their own child. These are the realities that we are now faced with as a country that purports to be democratic, a country that purports to be free, and a country that claims to be protected by the best constitution in the world. We are gathered here because hunger is a choice. And it is a choice that I believe none of us here are willing to make. And we are saying we no longer choose hunger. And we demand an end to hunger. But why do I say it's a choice? Hunger, as we experience it in our daily lives, in our communities, is a man-made phenomenon. For those of us who are believers, we know as we read the good word, when our good Lord made us and put us on this earth, we were given everything that we need to survive. Again, there was a Garden of Eden. They speak of every abundance that we were given. But yet today, we live in a world of scarcity. We speak of malnutrition, hunger, scarcity, poverty. This is not the world that was created for us by our Creator. It is the world that the people who govern and lead our countries, nations globally, this is the world that they have created. And that's why I say hunger is a choice. It is a policy choice. It's a decision that those in power make to say, hunger is acceptable to us. We've spoken a lot this week about crime in our country. South Africa is one of the most violent, crime-ridden countries in the world. Now, you must either accept that we are just generally violent people, on the one hand, or we must ask ourselves the question to say, what are the reasons and the contributing factors behind crime? Why is it? Are South Africans just more violent than everyone else? I don't believe so. I believe that we come from a certain historical context. I believe that we live under very difficult conditions. And I believe that we have a government and leaders and police that are unwilling to deal with the problem. And similarly with hunger, we unfortunately live in a society where the hunger of my neighbor, my fellow man, another mother is acceptable to me. Right here where we are in Lenasia South, and in fact, there was a young man at the back who invited me to Orange Farm, and I was actually saying, I just came from there. We were in Orange Farm this morning. Orange Farm. Coming up with practical solutions on how we can now resolve the challenge of hunger through supporting homestead farmers and subsistence farmers in Orange Farm. And I'm proud actually to announce that we have already started a number of projects in Orange Farm. We are supporting today alone. We met with different community gardens, an organization that represents 28 different community gardens, employing over 600 people, many of whom are young. Lega Papa, it's okay. I'll give you a chance. But it's not about just clapping hands. Those are small wins. Our issues, like many of the speakers today have said, are systemic issues. They cannot and will not be dealt with by just putting one garden here, putting another garden here, putting another garden here. One of the issues that Alan has spoken so passionately about and has committed his life's work to is the issue of accessibility of food. I want to emphasize, as amongst other developing countries, we have a very advanced agricultural sector. We export more food than we consume in our country. And on tables in Beijing, in Belgium, people are enjoying South African oranges, South African wine, our avocados, our biltong, and the produce and the fruits of our land that we consume. And that is one of the issues that we are taking very seriously, and I'll speak more about that. I want to talk also about the issue of affordability. And this is a critical one, because as Utatu Vami very correctly said, the average cost of a basket of food for a family of 4 is far above what the average income level is in our country. If you think, babang bahola di 350, as I'm driving down the street in Orange Farm, I saw a number of different informal traders. Barekisa di veg, di tamati, onions, fruits and other things. On the side of the road, you've got different people selling, maybe in a packet of 3 or 4, di tamati, say 4, say 6, all packaged on the side of the road. Uguti, bazo tengisa di tamati la estrati. That time, there are many different small-scale farmers that are growing food at Orange Farm. But their food that they are growing is not being sold here where they are, or even in the shops where they are. Singathi sifuna access to market. Who is the market? Who's the market? Kirona. Product to manufacture because the farmers are not bringing enough product to them. So we need to change that whole economy and make sure that where the food is being consumed must also be where it's being produced. And Sizotala Nana Food Garden. Because everything starts small. Even the biggest company. People love to talk about ZZ2, Nabobanban. Every company, every big conglomerate today started small. So we must not fear the small beginnings. And we must not think of ourselves in isolation. Masinje, if we have 10 farmers in this room, I don't know how many farmers we've got, maybe we don't. But if we've got 10, 15 maybe farmers in this room, we need to stop working alone in our own silos. We must make sure that we operate in a coordinated fashion. So one of the strategies that we are driving as the department is what we call the aggregation. What does that mean? It means, if we've got 15 farmers in this room, we must make sure we are all producing 1,000 heads of cabbage in a week. Then we can even procure from you. Sitenge the product yako and supply different needs of government. That is one of our strategies. Because we as government also need to play our part. I have made this point. I have gotten support on this point from the Premier himself. I have gotten support from this point from the MEC of Economic Development, and they have committed that one of the key things, policy changes we are going to implement as the Gauteng provincial government, is that we are going to start buying our own produce from our own farmers as a starting point. The food that feeds our children in the school nutrition programs, the food that we eat at Wonkama conference, all these different million conferences that you see people going to, the food that gets consumed in our hospitals. First, Singakhali access to market. I'm not saying we mustn't go to retailers. We must go to retailers also. But let's start where we are. Let's start in our communities, and let's start also, Tina, as government, before we start pointing fingers at other people. Let us be the first ones to lead the way in terms of providing access to market to small-scale farmers and homestead farmers. And then it brings me to the other one. We take affordability, I need accessibility, availability. Now, that availability also touches because availability speaks to our ability also to produce food. It's one thing to say we want to produce food, but is it possible for us to make food available in Gauteng? Now, many people get very surprised with agriculture in Gauteng. A lot of people, they heard agriculture when I was appointed to this role. Suddenly they were like, oh, agriculture in Gauteng. But there is agriculture in Gauteng. We are just not seeing it in our communities happening at scale. Gauteng produces 25% of every egg that is eaten in our country. Gauteng is home to the biggest carrot supplier or producer in the whole country. We are a major producer of grain and maize meal. We also produce, of course, amaveg, all kinds of vegetable and horticulture products, amongst other things. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we are supporting community-based farming, small-scale farming, so that there is more production and therefore more food that's available. And so we also have what we call a commercialization program, which is different from subsistence. Subsistence is where you produce for yourself. Commercial is where you produce to scale. And we have a number of initiatives that target specifically commercial farmers so that food can be available where people are. So I wanted to also share some of the initiatives and the progress that we've made since we met. Alan, you spoke a bit about the symposium that we had. We have already taken some steps, and I'm actually very proud and grateful to the team that I work with for responding quickly to this call. We are going to be putting forward a proposal for a change of legislation and the implementation of legislation to ban food waste. It is something we're committed to. It is something that we are committed to seeing through to the end. Now, obviously, we are based in Gauteng, and this is where we're going to start. We are going to table a motion in the Gauteng legislature, and it's going to start there. And I'm hoping that in partnership with yourselves, because it cannot just be government standing by itself saying we want legislation. People will say, who do you want legislation for? Who told you to use fully legislation? It is at that point that yourselves, as members of the community, as members of civil society, must also stand up and apply pressure. Because when you want to make radical change, when you want to make structural change, you are going to get a lot of people pushing back. Leskan Siakiliwan, standing on an island by myself, I'm hoping that we will fight this battle together. And this is the purpose. This is the point, Bazali, of having public representatives. I want to just digress a little from Ihanga as a topic. I want to talk about how we need to be thinking differently about government. I want to say we, as if it's a union against hunger, but how we need to be thinking very differently. It's not about government being here and the rest of the public being here and communities and civil society being here. Every single public representative who is standing or who is in government right now, somebody had to wake up and go and vote and put an X next to their name and say, I want you there. I'm not here on my own brilliance. I'm here because there were people who sent me there to say, go and do this work. Go and speak on our behalf. And you must never forget that fact. That it doesn't matter what party anybody's from. It doesn't matter what t-shirt they are wearing. They are there representing you and your voice. And so we must make sure that we continue to have platforms like this and engage on these types of issues so that we can take these issues forward. And I'm really grateful and humbled actually by Union Against Hunger for inviting me into this space today, because I think it is an important first step. Sometimes we have a tendency of talking to ourselves as government. We call all these summits and sessions and we speak to ourselves, and similarly as civil society, you guys speak to yourselves. So I believe this is an important first step in actually working closer together to start to jointly develop these solutions. And I don't watch sports, so please forgive me if I'm going to use the wrong metaphors. But I know that even in a sports team, everybody has their position. Okay, you've got somebody who's playing center, midfield, striker, defense, link, goalie, and a coach. You've got people who have to play different roles. Now, maybe you can think of me as a striker. I'm the one who's there to kick the legislation through the door. But I can't do that unless the rest of the team is doing what they need to do. And they make sure that that ball reaches my area. Did I not mess it up too much? Thank you. Get the 18 area. I'm learning. My son plays soccer, so I'm trying to also learn these things. So as I move to close, I want to say we must continue, as I said, having these discussions. We must be bold about forging these public-private partnerships and partnerships with other organizations. I love what Union Against Hunger has done in bringing a number of organizations into the fold. Because indeed, even civil society sometimes, in a little territorial, some people will say, this is my issue, and I don't want others to be involved in my issue. But I think the way in which Union Against Hunger has sought to bring others into the fold is exactly how we need to be engaging and addressing these issues. We need to commit collectively to creating a safe, a prosperous, and a hunger-free South Africa in one generation. We can't wait another 30 years. I hear people talking about 30 years. Now I don't have 30 years. As a department, we have already said by 2029, we are targeting a reduction of 10% in this province. And 10% doesn't sound like a lot, but we have 2.5 million people currently in this province that are defined as moderately or chronically hungry. 10% of that means we need to ensure that at least 250,000 people no longer have to experience hunger. It's a massive job, and it's not one that we are going to be able to do ourselves. But I'm hoping that together we can resolve this problem and we can end hunger once and for all. So, hi fele tala, hi fele. Hi fele tala, hi fele. Phansi ngendlala phansi. Phansi ngendlala phansi. Ngiyalebonga.
Siyabonga MC Wodumo. Ulithwele fresh mshapele matsogo asebenza ngophathi. Bakhathi ke tseba go le khathetse and ichayile ne. Ani chapele matsogo go ichayile. Thank you so much for your patience, and thank you so much for the wisdom that we got from our MEC. Hi, Chomo, don't shapsaka batho. Don't shapsaka batho straight. Aski is natural. Kitlofa ko wena fetsa mne. So as I was saying, ra leboga bagaetso, re utlwile le commitment ya MEC gore they will push definitely for food wastage to be dealt with. So as the Union Against Hunger, we'd like to thank you all for coming. As I was saying earlier, this is the beginning of a beautiful journey together. We need to fight this and together united. Tlala asitaba ya mang, ha ngwana ko next door asina dijo ke bothata ba hao. Because kausane o tlotla a tlo tegezetse. Ngwana ga wa sa tshwere kota, watch his scale, a ihluthe mo letsogong. That's how bad it's going to be like. Right? If we don't change now and fight now, our children will marry each other and they will become problems. Sema keni ka lenyalo ba gaetso, o ka se mogolo. Akere bagolo. So we are going to go back as the Union Against Hunger and take the notes and the suggestions that were shared, and definitely we will definitely come back and communicate through to you. They will get direct communication from Sisonke, but Babang Batile from different organizations. But I'm saying to you, this is just the beginning. We are going to make this work together. And if you all agree, I say you all can make so if you never hold. Just quick instructions. When we leave outside these exits, there is two stations, catering stations. Ne? So Areto Lula, you just get a fully packaged meal. Right, thank you so much, love you, thank you. Oh, there's petitions outside. If you didn't sign, please sign and support our petition. Thank you. Let's stop.